experience of having gone through this process. So, over to Rachel before we get into the formal webinar. Thank you again, Rachel.
Hi everyone. I was a student winner. I'm one of the cohort of this year. And I applied to Iolanthe for some money to go and attend a spinning babies workshop. So I don't know if people have heard about that. It's a kind of physiological birth workshop, basically. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go over to Ireland in September and meet a kind of international bunch of midwives and birth workers and spend a really inspiring and incredible weekend just working out how we can support women and families, women especially, to kind of get kind of optimal fetal positioning in labour and prior to labour, so that they can birth their babies with comfort and ease, basically. So I had an amazing experience. I was really buoyed up by meeting so many people who were so passionate about midwifery and with so many ideas and ways. And I learned so much that we can really help some of the women that we're caring for if we're midwives or we're student midwives. And that's been a big part of my experience with Iolanthe, really, just that I never anticipated, really. Just being part of this has just been really wonderful. We were just talking that there's lots of challenges within the midwifery world at the moment. So when we have the opportunity to meet people and be part of something really exciting and positive and inspiring, it's really great to be part of. And that's been my experience with Iolanthe. So in terms of ideas or tips, I think the applications for this year are open now, and I'm sure Sharon will give you the correct date. I think it's February they close. So you've got a little bit of time to get in there. In terms of filling in your application form, I'd really recommend going on the website, having a look at what previous winners have got to say. I also remember reading the guidance from the chair last year, so that's another tip. So do your homework, look into what it is that you want to do, make sure you really understand it, and that you can tie that to how that can really support women and families and improve the care that we give, because that's the name of the game. That's what this is all about. So yeah, so if you might already have that project that you're passionate about in mind, I was actually hoping to attend a Spinning Babies course the last time there was one going to be put on in the UK, and unfortunately that project was cancelled. So when I saw there was a facilitator coming from New Zealand coming back to the UK, I just thought, wow, I'd love to do this, but I just need a little bit of help to be able to get over to Ireland and actually access this course, and that's what the trust helped me to do. So if you've got your project that you're passionate about, research it, think about it. I know that I was really fortunate as a student. I went to some of my kind of academic, one of my academic tutors, just got them to have a read through my application. So I've got some feedback. So if you know somebody who's put in a grant for something before, or you've got a tutor or a colleague who can look over it for you, I'd really recommend doing that. A proofread is a very wonderful thing. And yeah, I think that's been my story. So I've had my experience, I've had a wonderful time. I need to get down and write my report now. And I also had the privilege to go to a wonderful awards evening in London where I met all the trustees and was inspired a little bit more. So I don't know if there's a moment for questions. Was that the plan? But I'm happy to answer any questions people might have if there's time.
So that's a really helpful invitation from Rachel. Are there any questions at all? Rachel, I know, has to leave us by 7:30, so this is your opportunity now. Although she's given you some very, very useful advice there in terms of the style and standard of the application.
I mean, I'm really happy if anyone thinks of something later on. I know it's difficult when you're suddenly put on the spot, especially if you're traveling. So if anyone thinks of something later, I'm really happy. If they were to email Sharon or to forward something on, that would be absolutely fine if that's doable. Because I know some, or if there's a question you want to pop in the chat or something, I can always get back to you.
I've just had a thank you for coming for your experience from Sophie, Rachel. But yeah, we don't have any questions in the chat, so we'll give people a bit more time to digest and figure out if they've got any questions for the rest of us.
Yeah, great stuff.
So from that perspective, then we'll move on into the formal webinar, and Maura is going to really helpfully share the slides. Thank you. Oh, it's a wonderful thing. And so if we go for the next slide, we have, as I have had a welcome to all of you, and just to restate, we are really, really grateful for your interest and enthusiasm, and do look forward to lots of applications. The purpose of this session, to be clear, is to really look at how we can help with the process. And we'll work through each slide some of the available awards and the application process, include some tips, and hopefully have time for Q&A at the end. So Maura, next slide. Thank you. The Iolanthe Trust, as you have probably all hopefully seen on the webpage, is very much was set up with the idea of improving the care of women and birthing people, and to do that through investing in midwives and student midwives. We are a registered charity, and we do, as a board, look at and review all of the applications and mark them. But we'll come through all of that as we go. So the next slide, which takes us to the awards application process. The process, as you know, has opened from the 1st of December, but as Rachel very helpfully said, you've got to the 1st of February. So time to start to complete an application and review it, and build on it and share it, and really thinking about how to get your message across in a concise way. The applications, when they come in, are reviewed, as I've just said, by the Board of Trustees between February and April. And we all complete marking unless there's a conflict of interest, which in the size of midwifery in the UK can become an issue because so many people are known to each other. However, we have a process to opt out in that instance. We announced the awards in May, and as Rachel said, aim to have an awards ceremony in October of 2026. The important bit, and I just want to say it up front because it may come up further on, is that once we have come to a decision, marked and the applications, we don't tend to give feedback. And that's a principle that we have, and that's basically because of capacity. We are all volunteers as board members. Last year we had almost 90 applications. To start to give genuine feedback to individuals would take quite a bit of coordination, and we really don't have the capacity to do it. So next slide, Maura. But as a trust, we have, what we will do is we will invest in training and self-development for midwives and student midwives. And as you've seen on this slide, you can see in this slide, that is courses, placements, organizing conferences, research and discovery. Now, every 2 years, we actually fund a midwifery research fellowship, but this has been awarded for 2025, and the next time this will open is for next year. But any small aspects of the research and discoveries, we're quite open to having applications to help that process. And anything that is around improving local services for women is another area we're very, very keen. And again, particularly when we think of Rachel, who came back and told us how many women have been able to take advantage of the training, for example, she has. So from our perspective as trustees, being able to assure ourselves that money is going to where it's supposed to be to improve care for women. Next slide, Maura. Thank you. So we've heard from Rachel, and of course, you know, on our site we do try and let people share people's views of the different awards have made to them. And so this is one example. And from Emily, and then if we go to the next slide, Maura, which is Rosaline, who also had secured the Doro Poco Award as a midwife. And it is a very important award for us because it was established by Dora's family for this instance to help people from a particular who struggle in a particular way and need that additionality. And so if we can go to the next slide. So the awards, we've 7 awards available. And those are, I'm going to take you through them all, each slide in particular, because you can apply for one. Usually it's to apply for one award under some of these categories. And as I say, the details going to follow with the one highlighted there, Mary Cronk Award. And again, we'll touch on it as we get to the next slide. So Maura, we'll start with the Nicolette Peel Award, which is an award established by Nicolette's family in conjunction with some others. And Nicolette was a midwife, and her family, in her honour, established this for projects or training to improve the maternity care of vulnerable pregnant women and birthing people. The maximum amount of the award is £2,000, and it is open to midwives or student midwives. This particular award, while I said earlier we mark the papers, which we do, her family also look to be involved in that process. Next award, more. So Nora Faith Podium Award, again established by Nora's family, and she was a little baby who died, and so the family are very, very involved and really want to have an award that improves maternity care and practice around baby loss and bereavement. And you can understand that, and anyone who attends the award ceremony and hears the family speak can feel their genuine desire to do as much as possible to support families in those circumstances. The award maximum is £1,500, and again is open to student midwives or midwives in the UK. Thank you, Maura. Doro Poco, as I've said, award is very much an award for self-development, training, research and improvement with a maximum of £1,500. And again, this award is open for Black and Brown midwives, because as a group of midwives and student midwives, because again, it's an area where there has been a much more of a struggle for midwives and student midwives to access funds. So this one again is awarded by the family, who take a great interest in the recipients. Maura, next slide. Oh, the student. Oh, that went so seamlessly, that slide. I was still waiting for it. So clearly, we have awards then specifically for student midwives and midwives. So the student award, again, as we said on that first slide, is very much about the student looking an opportunity to develop themselves or colleagues coming together or some aspect of service, and is a maximum of £1,000. And this award, we have discretion around being able to perhaps award more than one person. Maura, next slide. And similarly with the Midwives Award, with a maximum of £1,500. This award is really the scope, and to echo Rachel, you need to go online and look at some of the previous recipients and looking at what they've done with that and where their thinking was in applying for the Midwives Award. The next award, Maura, is the award, Jean Davis Award. And the Jean Davis Award is for challenging inequalities in maternal health in the UK. And Jean Davis is, anyway, if anyone knew her or knew of her, was a midwife who came from the northeast of England, and again was very, very keen to look at those things around socioeconomic deprivation, etc., and looking at how that could be changed. There's a maximum award for £3,000. And this is an award that we share with the RCM. And it is the only award that's open for a team application, an individual or team application. And that's why it specifies an RCM membership, because of the duality of that award. And Jean Davis's background was the Royal College of Midwives. So next slide, more. And we have then Mary Cronk Award. And this is an award which is chosen at our discretion. And it's an award that is given to projects which align with the passion and interests of Mary Cronk, whom, for those of you who knew of her or read about her or wherever in her presence is, was a midwife who was very keen to work with women in terms of I dread to say physiological birth because the media attention, but Mary Cronk was a midwife who cared for women within their home environment and supported them. And it's a maximum award then of £500, which, as I say, goes to an award winner in another category, but where their project does align with Mary Cronk's vision. Next slide. So examples of award-winning applications, as I say, Sharon and the team have keep the web page very much up to date. But these are examples of award winners. And as you can see, Birth Without Bias, funding to support MSc, the memory wallets for bereaved parents, the Student Award, the Interpreters Workshop, Midwives Award, looking at things like biomechanics, engagement with women, developing aspects of care for women, and the Nicolette Peel was a non-medical prescribing course to support perinatal mental health specialist role. And very much people writing the applications can bring to it how to make those criteria live. So, for example, in bereavement, the family of Nicolette Peel were really, really impressed with the application, which was about looking at the bereavement and loss for women with social aspects whose children were removed from them rather than necessarily died. So it is about how people put together their application. So next slide. Top tips, and these absolutely, this is your takeaway message from today. Check you're eligible. Read the guidance. Read the award guidance for that specific award. Check the criteria. Really look at it, and as Rachel very helpfully said, complete all sections ask a friend or colleague to review. Please don't leave the submission to after the deadline, because once we've closed it, we've closed it. And even though there may be very reasonable, rational explanations of why you were just outside that deadline, unfortunately, we have to stick to the deadline. And as Sharon very helpfully said, get in touch with the Iolanthe Midwifery Trust if you have any queries. And Sharon monitors that questions very carefully, so there will be someone there to respond or get your response. And Rachel, thank you again for coming. It was very helpful, lovely to see you, and good to, good to have your input, really helpful. So, Maura, next slide. So this is really restating everything, having a very clear purpose, being very, very sure you've aligned it with the criteria, why it's important, how it'll improve practice, how will you demonstrate the benefits, how can you demonstrate it, what will that be? Will the feedback from women? So for example, Rachel, who's just left, was able to share with us how many women, where the sessions were, what's going forward from that point. And when it comes to costings, and everyone recognizes that's a challenge, but try and make it as detailed and precise as you can. Also supply evidence of any other fundraising. That doesn't exclude anyone from applying, but it is important just to give a holistic picture. And of course, the avoidance of including personal costs. And the next slide, Maura. Absolutely. Again, this is self-explanatory, but trying to keep it concise and focused. Sometimes when we are all very, very close to our own application and we really know what we want to say, but actually getting other people to read it and check and fact check for you that what you're saying is what you think you're saying is what you're saying, that you adhere to the word count, and that you can align it with policy and evidence and explaining why it's important. We do get supporting letters. We do get in the application form that there will be supporting letters, but unfortunately they're not included before the deadline and then come after the deadline. And again, that causes frustration for applicants who feel then that has weakened their position. But unfortunately, we do have a deadline, and if for the people who've got it in over the bar, then that's what we have to stick with. So next slide. So list of web pages, and this is all, it is really the Iolanthe website has all of the information for you and in all those sections. And really it is about rereading and rereading that. And as I really can't say enough, getting other people to read it. Because, I have also applied for things in the past, and because it's close to my heart, I think I've articulated it clearly, but sometimes in our passion, we don't actually convey that message in the right manner. So we're really at the point where any questions, any of my colleagues, first of all, maybe who have anything they want to add?
I could add a couple of things, Liz, if that's useful.
Thanks, Sharon, that'd be brilliant.
Just because I've been reading, I'm not a trustee, so I'm not involved in decision making, but I've been reading applications over since 2021 now, and I think my impression is when people start early, on our system online, you can save and return to your application. So you don't need to be daunted by it. As funding applications go, it's pretty accessible. So you can just turn up one day and just put in your name and address, all the things you already know, your name and address, maybe the project title, maybe you haven't got that quite sure yet. And then you can save it, and then you can let it, what do I mean? Percolate, that's the word, in your brain for another little while. Maybe chat to your colleagues, to people who you would like to involve, maybe some service users, and then you can come back and do another little bit. And I think I really see the difference in the applications and the ones where people have gone, oh gosh, that application is going to close next week, I better just throw something in. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't a great idea, but when you've taken the time to do it slowly and look at all the little things you can add in. So not everyone does add supporting letters, but those who do, it's going to look more like you've gone out and you've engaged with others. And obviously having someone else's opinion about, about your idea or about how committed you are to your work or your project, that's really going to help our trustees. So yeah, don't be daunted by the application, but just start it early and then take your time. I think that's one of my favorite tips. We also have somewhere on the website, I think I might have put it near the front page, but we interviewed Grace, and was it you, Logan, as well? We asked you guys a year or two ago, what do you look for in applications? And you gave us some really thoughtful replies. So you can actually read top tips from Grace and Logan there as well. We're getting some questions here over to the side, so I'm just going to let you know them. So, right, Rebecca, I know you've got a question. I'm going to ask the couple that have been typed in here, but we'll come to you as well. So Sophie's asking, is there a maximum to how many supporting letters you can include? Moira?
No.
Excellent. We've got, is there a word count to each section of the application? Yes, there is. So you might start off with a draft in a Word document and it's twice as long as it's meant to be. Don't worry, just come back to it later and you'll start to see the bits that you can let go of, or you could ask someone else to give you feedback on that. Can you apply for multiple projects? Would anyone like to answer that?
No, that's one of the points that I was making. Stick to the area that part of that fund that most you think fits where you're at, but no multiple applications, because what happens is the person does a generic application to try and make a one size fits all, and one size doesn't fit all, unfortunately. And then that often weakens the position whenever you're reading maybe 13, 14 applications that are really focused in. Would that be fair, Logan, Grace? Say.
Grace has got an answer there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with you there, Liz. I think we've had over the years people who will put the same application into various sections, and then it doesn't really become relevant to that award. So I think it's really important. This year we've made a decision that you really need to apply for one award, and focus on what the criteria of that award is. And Sharon's made a really good point, I think, that you can go back and forth to your application and you can alter it online. But my tip would be as well, I always like to do things on a Word document and play around with it and then copy and paste it in, even though you can then still change it on the online form. I would say that, do it offline if you like, and have a really good chop around with it and play with it and get other people to review it, and then you can copy and paste.
Sophie was just asking, how does it work with the doubling up of the Dora Poker Award and Student Midwives Award, or Midwives Award? I've just typed an answer there in the chat, but I might say it better in words. So you just fill out one form. So you might click on Apply for Dora Poker Award because you're eligible by its definition, and you would then find yourself filling out your one application form, and that automatically puts you in for the Student or the Midwife Awards as well. So we only offer one Dora Poker Student Award and one Dora Poker Midwife Award usually, but there are multiple Student and Midwives Awards open to a more broader application. So yeah, as long as you fill that out, but tick that you're eligible for those specific awards, then you'll be put in for both. You don't have to fill out 2 forms. If you find yourself filling out 2 forms, then you've probably not noticed that you shouldn't be doing that. So don't do that. We might have some other questions here. I think, yeah, we had one from Rebecca. What did you want to ask? Feel free to put your sound on and ask in real life, Rebecca, if you'd like.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to do the hands up because I'm so used to Teams. But this is, if we're supporting student midwives to apply, should they be in first or second year? And I'm just thinking of the timing. If the award was then granted after they've qualified, but their application was when they were a student midwife, is that a problem? Because if they're applying, if they're in final year now and applying, and they aren't informed about the awards until May, and then when they're actually, you know, going to the course or anything, they would be a qualified midwife. What happens there?
I think actually, Rebecca, as you've just said, when they're applying, they're a student. They're applying when they're with you as a student, and that is how we assess it within that category. And really what we then want is to see that they do deliver against that. So if we make an award to a student, what we want to see is the money spent. And we have had, for example, in the past, people who have been recipients of an award, and then their circumstances changed, and they've then got in touch with us and have, where necessary, then returned the award. So I wouldn't let that be an exclusion, if you like. If the students have an idea, which is a sound idea, and they think that it can be delivered, even if they've just qualified, for example, then that's still a legitimate. Yeah. Because otherwise you would be excluding maybe all third-year student midwives, and all third-year student midwives don't necessarily finish in the first year. Some of them sometimes have life events and it postpones and so forth. So I think it's cleaner, just they are students, you're signing them off or supporting them as a student. And that's how we would treat the application.
That's perfect. Thank you, Liz.
We've got a question from Sophie saying, I think I read somewhere that the money needs to be spent within a certain time frame. I'm looking to apply for a part-time MSc. So would I apply on the basis that if I was successful, the monies would go to the first year? Would someone like to answer that?
There is a time limit, isn't there, for the MSc projects? And I think if there's extenuating circumstances, we certainly do that on a case-by-case basis. But I think on the applications, it says it's got to be done. Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's within that year framework, depending where they are with their masters. And I think if you're doing, whether you're doing a full-time masters or a part-time masters, but it's got to be finished within a specific time. But I can't remember whether it was a year or whether it was up to the time they were supposed to finish. Do you know what I mean? There is a deadline, and we look at from the time they apply to the time they finish, and there is a timeline to it. But I think there have been people who have asked for extensions because of extenuating circumstances. That's how it works.
Yeah, I think under those circumstances we've been flexible. I think what's happened often is that people have accessed their funds within the first year and spent them within that first year to cover fees, you know, as a one-off payment, even if their studies continued on for longer than that. But certainly we say that we want you to apply for something that doesn't begin until January of your application year. So that would be January 2026 in this case, if it's a new project. And we do say on the website, we give priority to new projects and new studies. However, that's giving priority. And in fact, if you have something that you've already started, or if it is going to run over after a year, I think the main thing is to be very clear in your application, because the one thing all the trustees are is very interested in individual circumstances, and when they can be flexible without breaching any of our guidelines, then they are. So the thing to do would be upfront and be clear about when your costs are going to fall, and if they will fall in that year when we advise people to try and spend all their funds as their plan. And if you think something's different is going to happen, then just be very clear in the application, and trustees will be able to consider the circumstances. Does that sound right, Maura, from your point of view?
Yeah, and I think the other thing to note that is just for an administrative purpose, if we know there's money's being held over, we let our accountant know, because obviously we have to do the end of year returns and the figures have to balance up, so that if we know in advance, we can actually sort of heads up on that one. So yeah.
Sophie's got her hand up. What would you want to ask?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to, clarify and come back on your point, because the specific course that I've got in mind starts in September 2026, but it's a part-time MSc over 2 years, so I'm guessing would sort of end 2 years from September next year. So I'm just trying to work out. I'm not sure from what you said, I'm not sure whether to apply, because I'm not sure it will align with the arcs of the charity and having to ensure that the course is finished within a certain time frame. But equally, I'm thinking I can't have been the only person that's in this position before or now. So just trying to work it out, because I guess I can't or won't apply if I'm not able to, if it doesn't apply to what I want to do, if that makes any sense.
Sophie, yeah,
Go on, you
sorry,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, Sophie, the thing is, it's if when people doing masters have applied and have been successful in their application and have been able to draw down money for the first year, it depends, as I probably didn't too clearly explain, that it may be a particular aspect, a particular part of what might be a bigger project that you're applying for the support for. So for example, coming to mind, say someone may be wanting to do some work on co-design for the sake of argument, and needing that's a discrete piece of work within a bigger piece of work. So they could apply and secure funding. And as both Maura and Sharon said, we have had to adjust funding for people in the past around, not next year, the following year, but within months, around the margins, if you like, because things do happen, unexpected things happen. That's part of the real life of being a midwife or student midwife. So it's really, again, looking at what your application, where you're trying to set it against which criteria, and how when you're doing the little bit of costing that's included in the application, what is it you're saying, when do you need the money, and so and for what? I don't know if that's any more helpful.
Can I add to that, Liz, that I'm guessing, Sophie, that your masters will cost more than the amount that the award from Iolanthe would be able to grant if you were successful anyway. So it would be important that you put what your total cost, for example, of your masters is, but what would you use that specific £1,000 or £1,500 for within your first year, that is within the Iolanthe time frame. So you could specify a specific module, and then your report would be your completion of that module and the gain that you have had from that, for example. So it's absolutely fine to be part of a bigger master's degree, because most of them are far more expensive than what we can actually grant as a charity. And similarly with PhD, quite often we'll have somebody who's going on to do PhD studies, but they'll want to do perhaps a specific project or a specific course, as Liz has said, around a methodology as part of that. So we're happy to look at the funding for specific elements that relate to a bigger award. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. Thank you. Okay, I think that does help, because what I'll do is I'll go back and have a look at the modules. I think I was just getting a bit confused, because the university that I wanted to do it at, they don't do cost per module, they do cost for the year. So then I was thinking, oh goodness, I wouldn't be able to sort of be as specific. But I think I'll go back and look again with what you've just said. And I think hopefully I'll be able to work something out. That's really helpful. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And even if you're saying, this is the cost of the full first year of my master's, and so Iolanthe would be contributing £1,500 towards that total cost, and just, explaining then within your report back to us what you will have achieved within that time frame.
Perfect. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
But definitely go for it.
Thank you.
I'll just read out another question that's come up. Sorry, I don't know your name. We just know you're on your iPhone. And actually, this person says, Grace, you just answered their question, but if I read it out, you might have some additional sort of answer to this specific one. Oh, hi, Heidi. Thank you. So this is Heidi. She says, I was hoping to put an application for a project within a wider PhD application, although the research grant is not before 2027. So would it still be feasible to apply? So I think, go on, Grace, you'll be able to answer that.
Yes, I think definitely that's a really important thing, because, having some preemptive work that leads on to your PhD is really important as well, isn't it? So I think that's a really important thing. And yes, I would say please apply, and within your application relate it to the bigger picture and how this is going to be beneficial to your future ongoing research and how it fits in, etc., with the evidence around that, because I think it's quite important that we see that you're thinking sort of along the evidence of why this piece of work is required and what benefit it will bring to women, people, and families.
That's all our questions there at the minute. Does anyone else want to ask anything? I know some of you are still on trains and planes and automobiles, so do type in your question if you have any, or wave a hand if you're here online.
And we're also going to be popping this on our YouTube channel. Get us. So you can come back and have a look at it, and we'll signpost this from the website. And if you have a question that occurs to you, tomorrow morning, whenever, you can get in touch with us, and we're more than happy to help you. And what I will do, I'll make a commitment to do this. I'll send out all those links to everyone that's attended and to those people that couldn't quite make it tonight. So all the links to the website and all the information, I'll send those out tomorrow morning to everyone.
Logan.
That might be all the questions we have, I think.
Yeah, just to add a little bit, really, and first of all, just to kind of say, this is to people on here, it's not just about masters or PhDs. Honestly, any project, big or small, if it's worthwhile, is going to do a lot for mothers and babies. Just be brave, get that application out there. That's the first thing. And secondly, to my black and brown colleagues, honestly, we'd love to hear from you and see you get your applications in. If you've got colleagues who are dithering and worrying about whether they should apply, please encourage. And honestly, we're very open. We're very happy to help you. Sharon is a mine of information, and she's ever so helpful and really steers us through all of that backroom work. And we are very, very committed. We're so passionate about midwifery and you guys. So please apply. Okay, thank you. Good luck, though. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing, that although this year we're talking about this lot of awards, hopefully next year we will have new awards, because the one thing we want to do is not stand still. So I'm currently working on 2, possibly 3 new awards. So keep watching this space. And if there's something that doesn't quite fit in for this year, who knows? Next year, with what we've got bubbling under, it might just work.
And honestly, just to back up something Logan has said there, it's really, really important to us that we get the information about Iolanthe out through all your networks to midwives, student midwives working out there wherever they are, in whatever arena. And, you know, yes, it is a very disappointing thing to put a lot of work into an application and not be successful, but it is a really good thing to do. And it, you know, this year may be your year, maybe it'll be next year. We can't control the quality of the applications clearly, and we do see them improving year on year. But really looking at that the criteria and really focusing on the reward, and just restating again, as Rachel said, getting other people to look at it and read it and just be sure. And I just quickly see Sophie saying, if you applied this year and were unsuccessful, you can absolutely reapply next year. In fact, sometimes people do that. They relook at what they put in and maybe think, oh, there are areas I could have strengthened it. And so that's the important thing to do. Any other questions? Or people are just getting to the end of the train journey, bus journey, whatever. Well, honestly, we truly appreciate you all taking the time to come and approach and participate in the webinar, because it is important to us that as trustees we do live to the spirit of the founding members of the trust, and that is to improve the care of women and babies. And it's not for us to, you know, hold on to money or hold money back. Believe me, we are absolutely thrilled and delighted to be able to award as much money as we can for the benefit of women and birthing people. So we really welcome all your applications.